Hi, I am Stephen Wenner, and today I have the privilege of having an incredible person in the family law space with us, Jane Wesley Brooks. How are you, Jane?
I'm excellent. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And Jane is the founder and owner of JWB Family Law. And I have the privilege of knowing Jane from a professional network that I'm in. And one of the reasons that I wanted to showcase her was after my 30 years in real estate, I come across a lot of different professionals. And in the family law arena, what I've come to discover is a lot of people can come across a professional, an attorney in that space, but that attorney is the wrong attorney. And tens of thousands of dollars are spent initially and nothing is done. And I've seen this countless times. So that's the biggest reason I wanted to bring such a professional to you, the audience, to understand the differences and learn the nuances so you can choose correctly. So, Jane, I'd love if you can tell us a bit about yourself and how you actually found yourself in this arena of law.
Sure. Yeah. Most people are like, oh my God, you do family law? I could never do that. I went into family law because I went to law school thinking I'd be a criminal defense attorney, definitely in litigation in the courtroom. And about half a year before I was going to graduate, the public defender's office had a hiring freeze. So I went ahead and took an internship with a family law attorney because family law is in court as much, if not more so, than criminal defense attorneys or even civil litigators. We're in court all the time. And it was a really good fit for me. It was just a very good fit for me. And at the end of my internship, I decided that I would go ahead and stay with family law. And I've been there ever since. So I'm now a certified family law specialist, which is pretty much the highest level that you can reach in a profession, in the legal profession. There are several areas that have certifications as specialists, bankruptcy specialist with the state bar. Family law is one of the ones that offers a certified specialty. So I am a CFLS, as is my managing partner here. So we have two CFLS attorneys here.
And how many people are at JWB Family Law?
I have a staff of 12. There are one, two, three, four attorneys right now, and I have two law clerks that are waiting for their bar results to come through. So, gosh, I guess we're going to be up to six attorneys, and we'll have six admins. So, we're pretty well staffed, and we've got two of the best family law paralegals you can have in San Diego. So we're well staffed.
Well, that's awesome. Well, just like in my profession, people can go and transact real estate on their own. They don't need a real estate professional if they choose to avoid working with a professional to understand all the nuances. So why do people need a family law attorney? Like what? I know people that just say, I'm going to go to the courthouse and we're going to dissolve this marriage and we're good. But I'm assuming it's not as simple as that, or there are definitely things to consider. So why do people need you?
Right. Well, that's a great question because you're right. A lot of people are like, oh, no, we're in total agreement. I'm just going to save all that money and I'm going to go do it at the courthouse. Well, you can do that if you don't own a home, if you don't have retirement accounts, and you don't have children. Essentially, if you are just dividing personal property out of an apartment that you share, and you don't have to come up with custody visitation schedules or legal custody, physical custody for children, or you don't have to divide your retirement accounts, which can only be divided by a quadro or a dro, which requires an expert.
Hmm.
I will tell people if they call my office and they're like someone that's been married less than a year and they're getting a divorce and they don't own any property together, they haven't had kids, I will tell them, you don't need me. Go down to the courthouse and get this done and tell them that you want a summary dissolution and you're good to go. But those are few and far between.
Yeah.
Most people who have been married for a while have acquired more valuable property, whether it's a house or a, I don't know, second home, or they've acquired vehicles that now have loans on them and they need to be offset, or they have retirement 401k accounts through their employment, or maybe they have whole life insurance policies that need to be addressed. And the way to do that is to properly have your agreement drafted and made a court order, because without that, you don't have recourse. You need to have things properly drafted and made into an appropriate court order so that it stays the course post judgment.
And again, you're just touching on the surface level, right, by what you're explaining. And I know it goes so much deeper than that. So what would you say are some of the most common misconceptions or things that you hear more often than not that you're like, well, so are there things like that that you come across often?
Oh yeah. And frequently it's interesting because people always think that the divorce is the biggest part of family law. And while that is very true, most litigation in family law occurs post judgment,
Oh,
meaning
really?
after you've gotten divorced. And it's after you've gotten divorced that you're trying to enforce the judgment, or
Hmm.
you're trying to modify custody, visitation, or modify child support and spousal support. And I would say the thing that we see a lot is that people make a deal with each other on a handshake. Well, as you know, Steve, you can't do anything with real estate on a handshake. There's this little thing called the statute of frauds that you have to have everything in writing. And that's true for family law too. It's not like we have a statute, but if you don't have it properly written down when you want to make changes to your
Yeah.
judgment, if you don't have it properly written down and signed, you don't have an agreement. And let's say that you don't have an agreement and one of you is operating off of the handshake deal and the other isn't. Where's your recourse if you don't have your modification from your divorce decree in writing? So we run into that a lot. We also run into where there's been an order for people to get their retirement properly divided in the divorce decree, but nobody does it. And now all of a sudden one of them is retiring and they have no idea where they are in the country or the world. And there goes their retirement. How are you going to deal with that?
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, all these things that even I'm learning, right? Just listening to some of this stuff that you have to see on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And again, the biggest reason that I wanted to have you on here was the feeling that I had when we met based on the other attorneys I know in the family law space. And I mean, no disrespect, but I definitely know what kind of a feeling I'm looking for out of somebody versus am I just hiring a professional?
Right.
And everything that you're sharing obviously stands out, but the biggest differentiator, right, that I really would love for you to explain those that'll view this is what is the value proposition that JWB family law brings to those that haven't met you yet but are on their way to needing your services?
Right. I would say there's two things. First of all, I built my firm based on always wanting to have multiple layers of attorneys as staff, so that if you have a simple case and you need an attorney, but it's a more simple case, you don't need to go hire necessarily a certified family law specialist that has the highest rate in the industry. You maybe need an attorney who's 2 years out and can easily handle a simple divorce. And so JWB Family Law has that. We've got, 5 attorneys at varying levels of experience. So I always do the intakes and I'm always looking at what attorney is going to be best suited for this case so that people aren't paying higher rates if they don't need to, and they're not going to an attorney who doesn't have the experience needed to address their issue. So that's number one. The other thing is communication. The number one complaint at the State Bar of California is that people can't get a hold of their attorney and they don't know what's going on in their case.
Yep.
That doesn't happen here. I make sure that does not happen here.
Yeah.
So every single one of my attorneys, if you call in and you want to talk to them, if they can take the call, they will. If it's an emergency, they absolutely do. Otherwise, you will immediately get a telephone call appointment set so you can talk to your attorney. And every document that we handle for you is sent to you so that you have as complete a file on your case as we maintain for you in the office.
So what I love about what you're saying is the initial assessment, first of all, you're going to determine what they need. So you're always hands-on in the beginning,
Yes.
right? It's not just passed off, which is huge. And again, the viewers, you have no idea what this means. I can tell you what that means. It's unbelievable because again, Jane's experience and wisdom and understanding to take care of you are at the forefront, not can we bring her into the highest billing bracket, right? Or what can we get out of this person? And unfortunately, that happens a lot in the industry. The second is for those of you that have never gone through a marital separation, the level of stress and anxiety is probably a 50 out of 10. And I can't tell you how many, even some of my clients, the anxiety that they go through with trying to reach their attorney. And a lot of attorneys get calloused and you're not, your feelings don't matter. And I don't mean that in a cold way. It's just that, and you can attest to this, Jane, you're dealing with high emotional content all the time. And it's hard, it's hard to stay open
Yeah.
with people suffering. So you found a way, and you've also led by example with the attorneys that work in your firm to respond, because every minute, every second of that anxiety is just creating a new story. Like we have this cerebral encyclopedia that we've created about all the worst possible disasters.
Yeah.
We've gone through this emotional rabbit hole. And then by the time, they eventually connect with their attorney, they're a basket case, Um, so I can't even tell you how important I know that is because I've talked to several family law attorneys about that. And they're like, nope, after 5, shut it down. No big deal. It's all over. I'll get to it when I get to it. And I'm like, these people are suffering until I get some sort of response. And also when we were having our breakfast, the other thing that I remember you saying is that you'll remind people about, hey, there is an hourly component to what I do. So if you want to share everything that's going on, I just need you to understand that. So that if we talk, unfortunately, I have to remind you that there is a billing component to it. Where I've heard other attorneys that don't do any of that, and then they get these massive bills after the fact, and they're like, I thought we were just talking. So I think that's also equally as important because of knowing your personality and what you shared. You're not in it to just how much can I get. And we did discuss firms that are in it for how much they can get.
Yeah. Well, and I think I am very, 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 very blunt. And I think that to your point where people are so emotional, they are overwrought with anxiety and worry, and just emotional angst over their kids and whether they're going to be able to financially make it and everything. To get through all that emotion, I have to be blunt because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And to that end, if people are going into talking about, whatever they're talking about that's an emotional component and it is not legally relevant, I will stop and say, stop talking. Stop talking. That is not legally relevant. And that is something you need to go to your therapist Or we have resources where if I have a client who I think really is emotionally not able to get, focus in and get through the divorce and deal with all that it takes with the office, I'll send them off to a divorce coach like India Current. And that helps them, bring in that emotion in a way that they can still function through all the decisions and work that needs to be done to get through to the end of their divorce. But don't be spending the high dollars with the attorney. Spend it with your therapist or spend it with your divorce coach, because it's a better way to spend your dollars for emotional relief and your time.
I completely agree. And I appreciate that you take that point of view, because I already know many don't. So I really appreciate you sharing, and I'm very hopeful that people will understand, see the value, and if they're in need of your services, reach out from this short interview, because there's a way to get a feeling across, and even the way you're conveying yourself on this, right, while we're doing this online, it still comes across as you're there to help. And you're also going to be blunt, which is what people need, because if not, the emotional component allows us to ramble because there's so much we want to get off our chest,
Yeah.
but it's the wrong place to do it. And at least
Right.
you give them an idea or a direction as to where to go. So how
Yeah.
can people reach out to you, Jane? How can they find you or
I
reach
am
you?
so sorry that my phone is ringing. As I said, this is the very first time I've been in this office,
Okay.
and I'm trying to figure out how to stop it. Well, it's stopped for right now. My apologies.
So,
Anyone can reach me at JWB Family Law, 619-234-6123, or go on the internet, and it's www.jwbfamilylaw.com. Check out our website. We've got lots of blogs on there and video logs. I do a thing called Tuesday's Tips, which is just purely educational for people who are considering a divorce or just want some more information. So I really appreciate you, Stephen, inviting me into your directory. And that is always very complimentary, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you so much for your time, Jane. I look forward to reconnecting with you soon after this video as well. So thank you.
You bet.